That's like the Army in me.
Enjoying a warm summer afternoon at her parents' Bristol home, Army Major Margaret Larson is preparing for an honor that any native Bristolian would likely dream of someday.
This has been an incredible opportunity.
Major Larson, who served her country as a medevac helicopter pilot during 2 tours in Afghanistan, will be this year's Bristol 4th of July celebration patriotic speaker.
Anytime someone asks about it or I think about it, it comes back so vividly.
Having to spring into action at the drop of a hat, time wasted could mean life or death.
When I was there in 2010 and then back in 2012, there was a huge surge in the war too. So, we had a ton of casualties, and we didn't just transport U.S. soldiers or service members. We transported Afghan civilians, we transported Afghan National Army, DoD contractors, basically anyone who got injured, who was in need of care, and fell under certain criteria, would be people we transported.
Unimaginable scenes, a career of service to her country that Maggie attributes to her childhood.
I grew up in a family that constantly focused on service and giving back. And that was just the climate my sister and I grew up in.
Maggie's parents were chief marshals of this very same parade back in 2004, and Maggie will now be among only a few women to have ever delivered the patriotic address at the annual celebration.
I am extremely proud, and one of the 3 is actually my aunt, so Auntie Linda.
This really comes full circle for your family.
It does, yeah. My family is, there's nothing we love more than the 4th of July.
Casey Kantz, ABC 6 News.
How does Bristol come back after the pandemic? With the biggest and best celebration for America's birthday. And for that, the 4th of July committee chose 3 chief marshals, Ken, Mike, and Steve Gennario.
It's very humbling. It's an honor, especially being a Bristolian, lifelong Bristolian, and to have somebody think of you in that light.
It's overwhelming. I had no idea about this. It was the last thing from my mind. A lot of people say, oh, they dream of being this and that. It was furthest thing from my mind.
And then because my father and his 2 brothers were chief marshals for the 200th celebration, it just means a little bit more.
That's right. Their father and uncles were chief marshals in 1985. Their fathers have passed, but their 93-year-old Uncle Joe couldn't be prouder to watch the next generation carry on the tradition.
He was extremely excited and happy for us. And we're glad he's here to be a part of it.
He'll be in the car in their division. After all, family is everything to the Gennarios, who've run a family business in Bristol since 1938, Sunshine Fuels and Energy Services.
There's not a day that goes by that we don't see each other in some fashion.
And what goes better than family and the 4th?
Be quite the family get-together. Usually they gather at my house every 4th of July. Mike, Steve come by 6 o'clock in the morning. We have a little a shot of coffee.
A great way to start his birthday celebration. That's right, Ken's birthday is on the 4th too. How perfect is that? And get this, Mike and Steve's dad was born that day too. It was just meant to be. So as their big moment approaches, what are they most looking forward to?
Standing there to lead off something that big, I think will be a pretty neat feeling. And as we, when they cut the ribbon and we start to march, I'm looking forward to that.
We've grown up in Bristol all our lives, so throughout the whole route, there's going to be people we know.
The review stand, because then it'll be over.
Doreen Scanlon, ABC 6 News.
Isn't it a David Bowie shot that I took?
Spend a few moments with Richard McCaffrey,
Here we have The Clash,
and you're instantly whisked back in time
Pete Townsend, The Who,
to a period of rock and roll.
and Ronstadt pouring a Heineken on her head. It was a hot day.
That defined an era. What was your first show?
I believe it was Lynyrd Skynyrd. They were on their first tour, and I had some contacts with the record company.
For his career to really get going, though, the Providence native had to take a leap of faith, moving to California in 1973.
In the beginning out there, I just paid to go to shows and took pictures, and then I'd send them in to magazines.
Huge magazines, including Billboard and Rolling Stone. McCaffrey's career was officially taking off.
This is taken at their last show that they played in Oakland Coliseum.
From Led Zeppelin to Springsteen, you'd be hard-pressed to find an artist or a band from the classic rock, blues, even early punk era that McCaffrey hasn't photographed. And the stories that accompany them are endless.
I focused on the mic. It was before the show started. And while I was doing that, she stepped in, and looked my way, and I snapped the picture. But I wasn't even sure it was going to be in focus or whatever. But that was the first shot I took that night.
A collection of his incredible work, now part of a new book.
That picture of Aerosmith, that's from the night that I had them all in my van.
Called Richard's Rock and Roll Alphabet.
And here's BB at San Quentin.
The stories are incredible.
Robert Blunt is the co-author of the book.
This book it's a book, but it's not a book. You know what I mean? Like it's more of like a celebration of music and photography and an era and sort of like a vibe.
Snapshots for every letter of the alphabet in one publication.
It's an ABC book, essentially, of rock and roll artists, starting from Aerosmith to Zappa.
A brief glimpse into an extensive and powerful career.
One of the first pictures that I took in Providence was back in 1963, Sly Stone.
From his early days growing up in Providence to his many long nights bumping elbows with rock royalty. It's a professional life any music fan would be jealous of.